You see, the root of all of this whole series, as we get more practical progressing through, is this. Where is your relationship with Jesus Christ? If your relationships are what I would call an unhealthy, messy, maybe you need to analyze you. I love it when somebody comes in to my office and they said, I just can't stand my wife. She drives me nuts. Well, why does she drive you nuts? She won't let me play hockey on Friday nights. And then I want to play baseball on Wednesdays, and she won't let me play baseball. And then I want to go out with my buddies on Tuesdays, and I want to have wings, and she won't let me do it. I'm sick and tired of being married. I don't think I love this woman anymore. And I'll honestly look at them and say, you are an idiot. No, that's exactly. You walk into my office and say that, I will look at you and say, you are an idiot. Don't walk in and say, I don't love this person anymore, because I'll look at you and say, did you ever? Did you ever make the choice to love? Or did you choose to live in the flesh? That's the battle that we have in our spirituality, in our Christian walks, if you're a Christian. What do we choose? It's funny because in church, we often choose the flesh. I mean, we prove that time and time again over our lack of joy and our lack of excitement and our lack of even looking like we're saved. Because if you're living your life in a Spirit-led relationships with everybody that you interact with, it doesn't mean that everything in it is perfect, but what it does mean is that it's all bathed in love, and so that you can progress through your relationships knowing that you're doing the right thing. That you're loving on people and they may be in the flesh and they may dump on you, but because you're in the Spirit, you know, and God strengthens and you move forward and you move on and you make the choices to love. You make the choice of whether the dude's pumping the gas fast enough or not. And then you make the choice of how you're going to interact with that person pumping your gas. Do you see how messy this is? Do you see how in the garden things were perfect, but yet we're given choice and we've always made the wrong choice? But Jesus comes along and says, guess what? I'm going to give you the open door to make the right choices, but it's up to you. It's your choice. How do you want your relationships to be with every person that you interact with? See, this is very simple Christianity. This is very, very, very simple. Love God and love your neighbor. God being the first relationship. If you have dysfunctional relationships, look at your relationship with Jesus. Now, I'm not saying that that's always the root of the problem, but quite often it is. Next week, I'm going to explain to you about being fakers, and I'm going to tell you the story about how I didn't need to get saved. There was no reason for me to get saved, at least I thought. The relationships that we function in, the interactions that we have with people, God says in Revelation and in Daniel and Ezekiel that we will be accountable for each and every one of them, and that we are to live all of our life in the Spirit, not in the flesh, that's the choice we make. But yet, it's a mess, it's a disaster, and that's exactly the core of what I want to deal with in this entire series. This first message is simply just that this is the tough one, right? This is the one where I get to yell and all that kind of stuff. It's the tough one where I say, guess what? Our relationships are screwed up because we're a whole bunch of sinners. Now let's get practical. Now let's look at how we live our lives in and out of the Spirit and in the flesh and so on and so forth, and how we analyze every step of the way. I actually believe that analyzing yourself in a healthy way Not like an unhealthy where it sends you to the hospital and gets you clinically cuckoo, but like a way where you're constantly analyzing yourself, saying, how can I be a better person? How can I love on people better? Was that interaction with that person? Was that what God wanted me to do? Do I walk by a homeless guy and tell him to get a job, or do I throw some money in his cup? These are the choices that you have to make in your relationships. Believe it or not, you're in a relationship with that homeless guy who you walked by. Do you make a choice? Lip him off? That's the beginning of an unhealthy relationship. Or throw him a couple bucks and move on. You may never see the guy again. But yet, when you go before God, and if you're a believer, the Bema seat, if you're not, the great white throne, you will be accountable for that. There's I don't know what it was, but the imagery of the fact that what if that homeless dude's Jesus? It's a mess. It's a disaster. And here's the biggest problem. The church makes it worse. Because we've developed a system of trying to be perfect. A system of judging each other based on how spiritual we think each other are, and so on and so forth. And we leave convicted from a message going, oh, I got to do better, when that's not what God's saying. God's just saying, live your life in communion with me. Live your life in my presence. In your relationships, they'll be up and down, they'll be all over the place, but it'll all be okay. Live your life in the flesh, live your life away from me. And the first relationship that you need to have, the ultimate relationship, the relationship that's essential to all of life, the Bible says that the only way to life is through Christ, the only way to the Father, that He is the way, the truth, and the life. That you are dead unless you have Christ. So you're living your finite life that really is a minute little thing here in Simcoe, and most of the world doesn't even know where Simcoe is. And we think that it's like this crazy important thing when we have eternity to deal with. It's a mess. We don't know how, and so we develop a system. Like prayer, books on how to pray. They sell like crazy. It drives me absolutely nuts. Does everybody here know how to talk? Except Nitro. Everybody here knows how to talk. Everybody here knows how to have a conversation. Everybody here knows how to go out for wings with their buddies. Everybody here knows how to, I don't know, how to some other ways that you socialize with each other, right? We all know how to do all those different things. Guess what? Do the same thing with God. Don't need to buy a book on prayer. Just talk. Write it down if you don't feel like talking. Wow, I should write that in a book. We have made the Christian faith so stinking ridiculously hollow and hard when it never was meant to be that way. From the very beginning, God wanted us to be in a tight relationship with Him. Nothing changed His mind. He's always wanted to be in a tight relationship. He's a father figure in the sense that we do have to be disciplined, but He still wants the relationship. So the foundation of this whole series is based on the simple foundation that you need Jesus.